What's it like living in a world where simping is a crime? I was born in a timeline where being a simp could get you sentenced. And yet, even knowing that, I still willingly played the simp for someone I loved, eventually. 3 of my ex-girlfriends teamed up to put me on trial, the simp tribunal. If I'm convicted of being a simp, I'll be locked up for life. And they'll each walk away with 50 million. But if I'm found not guilty, everything flips. Chapter 1. George, your 3 ex-girlfriends have filed a joint report accusing you of being a simp. According to current law, you will stand trial before the Judgment Stone in Central Plaza. The commanding voice of the Judgment Stone echoed across the sky, booming over the entire city. Crowds surged toward the plaza. Under the massive tribunal platform, along with throngs of onlookers and gossip-hungry spectators, stood my 3 exes. I looked at them with a doting smile and said, "If you needed money, why didn't you just tell me? 50 million is nothing to me." Gasps erupted from the crowd. He's still worried about whether they have money. Why even bother with the Judgment Stone? Just lock him up. If he's not a simp, I'll eat a pile of dog shit on livestream. Someone whispered. It's been a while since anyone was accused by 3 exes at once, hasn't it? What kind of sentence does that get you? Another replied. I got this. I just graduated law school. According to the current Anti-Simp Act, the crime of simping is defined as a person, driven by romantic intent, upholds the supremacy of love over all else, and continuously engages in bottomless, self-degrading, excessive acts of flattery or servitude, to gain the affection of the target, even at the cost of their dignity, time, energy, or money. Note, simping cases fall under private complaints within romantic relationships. A case is only opened if one party reports the other. In other words, no report, no case. But once reported, the law must act. Now, per Article 404 of the Anti-Simp Act, if reported by one partner and found guilty, up to 3 years in prison. Reporter receives 10 million. If reported by 2 partners and found guilty, 3 to 10 years in prison. Each reporter gets 20 million. If reported by 3 or more partners and found guilty, 10 to 20 years in prison. Each reporter gets 50 million. The curious one asked again. What if the simp charge doesn't stick? The law student smirked. Then it all flips. The accusers go to jail, and the accused gets the money. Chapter 2. Hearing all this, my face remained unreadable, calm as still water. But my 3 ex-girlfriends, their gazes grew murky and conflicted, with hints of shame flickering in their eyes. Sensing their hesitation, the Judgment Stone's voice boomed once more. Once a trial begins, it cannot be interrupted. Are the 3 of you certain you wish to jointly accuse Mr. George? They exchanged glances, faces full of visible turmoil. After a long, agonizing silence, they nodded. The Judgment Stone declared, "Very well, the trial begins now." Chapter 3. The enforcers brought the first accuser, Alicia, up to the judgment stand. Alicia, my first love and childhood friend. She stood there in a custom-fitted French couture dress, her expression cool, her posture elegant and dignified. She sat gracefully on the bench before the Judgment Stone as the enforcers placed a memory extraction helmet on her head. Then, I looked up at the giant screen in Central Plaza. Her memories had already begun to play. That year, I was just 4 when I was adopted by the Wong family. Mr. Wong took my hand, looked at Alicia, and said, "Alicia, from now on, he's your little brother." That was the first time Alicia met me. Through her memory, what followed was a whirlwind of childhood fragments. Alicia and I grew up as inseparable childhood companions. She was my first crush, and I was her first passion. We stumbled into love, clumsily and innocently, hearts full of youthful hope. Our parents saw it all, said nothing, but silently gave their blessing. After college, I joined the Wong group. The me in the memory was giddy with joy, thinking I was just steps away from marrying Alicia, like a golden retriever wagging its tail so hard it nearly passed out. But then the screen shifted. A man appeared, his brow furrowed with worry. Chapter 4. That man was Alicia's true love, Martin. He sat in an office, head bowed, apologizing to Alicia. His face was tight with guilt, eyes dim with remorse. "I'm sorry, Miss Wong. I didn't mean to mess up," he said, standing off to the side. I was so furious my face turned purple. Clenching my jaw, I barked, "Martin, these clients took me forever to win over. Our whole department spent months pouring time and money into this deal, and you couldn't even mail a box of mooncakes properly. You made the recipients pay on delivery." My fists tightened. I pressed further. "And why are you apologizing to Alicia? What does this have to do with her? You're my subordinate. Why are you running to the design department?" Martin gritted his teeth. His eyes flickered with hesitation. Then, with visible effort, he muttered, "I came to ask Miss Wong to speak on my behalf, to stop Chairman Wong from firing me. My dad's sick. I really need this job," I snapped. "I'm the one who wants you gone, not the chairman. You've been screwing up since day one." I do feel bad for your dad. But this is a company. We get paid for our value, not our excuses. Alicia cut in. Enough. She rolled her eyes and said with clear disdain. If months of your effort can be ruined by a few boxes of postage-due mooncakes, then you're useless, and your so-called hard work is worthless. We had never made our relationship public at the company. Business was business. But this was the first time Alicia spoke to me like that. She said, "You should leave. I'll explain everything to my father myself." But in the end, not only was Martin not fired, he got transferred to the design department, promoted, and given a raise. He became Alicia's subordinate. Chapter 5. After that fiasco, I exploded on Alicia the moment we got home. But she threw herself into my arms, chuckled softly, and said, "So jealous, huh? Martin was my classmate in middle school. He's always been a bit clueless, clumsy too, you wouldn't believe it. But he used to trip and fall all the time back then." I was fuming. "Wait a minute. You pay that much attention to him. Do you like him?" Alicia's face darkened before I could finish. "What are you saying?" she snapped. "Martin's father is a respected teacher. He helped a lot of underprivileged students finish school. It's because of Mr. Bai that I helped him. How could you even think that of me?" My heart sank. I nodded and quickly backed down. "I'm sorry, Alicia. I lost my temper. It's my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you." Chapter 6. The memory feed on the giant screen sped up. In a flash, 6 months had passed. Now, Alicia and Martin stood on a deserted back road. Martin sighed. "Sorry, Miss Wong. I didn't realize this hotel would be so remote. We can't even get a ride out of here." Alicia gave a faint smile. "It's fine," she said, taking out her phone and calling me. "Manager Wong," she said calmly. "I'll send you my location. Find a way to send a car." As I watched, I realized, this must have been during a business trip. Martin had booked a hotel way out in the middle of nowhere, and now they were stranded. Before I could respond on the phone, Martin shouted, "Miss Wong, look, there's a motorcycle taxi." Without warning, he snatched Alicia's phone. "No need to trouble Manager Wong with this kind of thing," he said. Then promptly hung up on me. Grinning at Alicia, he added, "Wong family princess, you've probably never ridden one of these, right? Let me give you the full experience." He swung his leg over the back seat and patted the spot behind him. Alicia looked down at her short skirt, lips pressed together in silence. Before she could object, Martin whipped off his suit jacket and wrapped it around her thighs. His fingertips grazed her lower back, and in that instant, her cheeks flushed bright red. Chapter 7. The ride was rough. The narrow road was full of potholes, and the three of them, rider included, were crammed tightly together. With every bump, Alicia's body pressed closer to Martin's. Their thighs touched, and never quite pulled apart. Her eyes grew hazy. She leaned toward Martin's ear and whispered, lips trembling, "Stop moving, it's too close." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Martin smiled. He grabbed Alicia's retreating hand, and didn't let go. Chapter 8. From that day on, the air between them changed. Their relationship became ambiguous, flirting with a line neither of them would draw clearly. Meanwhile, Alicia and I started arguing more and more often, but no matter how heated it got, all she had to do was make up a flimsy excuse, or threaten to break up, and I'd fold, always the first to apologize. As their closeness grew, Alicia grew colder toward me. It all became too much, like a coward fleeing the battlefield. I chose to study abroad. At this point, the crowd watching the trial couldn't hold back anymore. Someone muttered, "Yeah right, studying abroad. That's just him running away before she dumped him." Another said, "With a girl like her stringing 2 guys along and he still won't let go. Classic simp." A third jeered, "Can we get the verdict already? Stop wasting our time." But the giant screen didn't stop. The memories kept fast-forwarding. After I left for school abroad, Alicia and Martin's shared moments grew increasingly censored, mosaic after mosaic blocking the details. Finally, the screen paused. 6 months after I'd gone overseas, that's when tragedy struck. My adoptive mother, Alicia's biological mom, died in a car crash. My adoptive father was critically injured in the same accident. Then, an explosive piece of business gossip hit the news. Alicia was not Mr. Wong's biological daughter, but an adopted one, and my adoptive father, for reasons unknown, had announced his intention to donate the entirety of the Wong family's fortune. Chapter 9. That night, Alicia called me in tears, "George." I called him Dad for decades, even if I'm not his real daughter. He shouldn't treat me like this, should he? Why would he rather donate the entire Wong group than leave it to me? She choked up and added, "Dad's always liked you, George. He trusts you. Please, help me talk to him. If you can convince him, I'll marry you." I agreed without hesitation, booked the next flight home, and stayed by my adoptive father's side. I handled everything for him, big and small, never leaving things to anyone else. That vigil lasted 3 years. Eventually, my father was moved by my efforts. He gave in and promised to leave the Wong group to Alicia. But just 2 months after his death, Alicia accepted Martin's proposal. She didn't give me so much as a goodbye, and from that moment on, we never spoke again. That was the end of Alicia's memories about me. Chapter 10. In the gallery, several hot-tempered onlookers began cursing out loud. Some women really have no shame. Cheated, lied, and now she's here ratting out her first love. One guy scoffed. She's the type who washes clothes, but can't fold them, can't hang them. Hell, she probably lost all the hangers too. Someone sniffed the air. What's that stench? Another replied. What else? Smells like fox perfume. Someone else chimed in sarcastically. Girl, I get you. I'm a hoe too. Another mocked. Seriously, bro, out of all the things you could have done, you chose to be a simp. And for her? She says one word and you abandon your education. Stay home 3 years taking care of your dad. And in the end, she marries someone else. Now you're not just heartbroken, you're on trial. Alicia went quiet, guilt plain on her face. She didn't say a word. Her memories ended. Now, it was my turn to be judged. The enforcers placed my hand on the judgment stone. A few minutes later, the voice of the stone rang out with solemn force. George, not guilty. The entire plaza erupted. What? No way. He did all that and he's not a simp. Did the judgment stone malfunction? Others began shouting. We demand evidence. Prove he's innocent. Even Alicia looked stunned. She turned to the enforcers and asked for a retest. The judgment stone responded with a voice cold and edged with mockery. No need to test again. You want evidence? Fine. Here it is. The screen above Central Plaza lit up again, and my memory began to play. Chapter 11. On screen, I was in the old Wong estate, taking a call. This was the moment Alicia and Martin, stranded on that deserted road, had called for help. Miss Wong, look, a motorcycle taxi. This kind of small issue isn't worth troubling Manager Wong. Before I could say a word, the call was cut. Then a man spoke off screen. Son, we'd hoped Alicia would marry you and be your good wife, but she's just like her mother. No matter how much you give, it'll never be enough. In that brightly lit room, beside me sat a middle-aged man whose presence alone commanded silence. He was my legal adoptive father, but biologically, my real father, Pablo. And Alicia, she wasn't really adopted. She was the child Jenny had back in her hometown, with another man. Years ago, after Jenny married Pablo, the two had desperately wanted a child, but after months of no results, Jenny insisted on going to the hospital. The test showed the problem was supposedly with Pablo. Jenny then suggested they adopt, and suddenly, she brought home little Alicia. At first, my dad felt something was off, but didn't suspect the truth. However, the Wong family found the matter suspicious. They launched a quiet investigation and ran DNA tests. What they uncovered shocked them. Alicia was Jenny's biological daughter, and my father, he wasn't infertile at all, but Jenny, she had a congenital heart defect, and wasn't expected to live past the age of 20. Chapter 12. When the Wong family discovered the truth, they demanded my dad divorce Jenny, but he refused. He knew that even if Jenny was at fault, the law wouldn't allow him to kick her out penniless, and he couldn't stand the idea of letting her walk away with a fortune, built over generations of the Wong family's hard work. So, divorce? Absolutely not. By his own words, my father is a man who holds grudges. A deeply obsessive person. When he realized he'd been betrayed, his rage consumed him, relentless, sleepless, until the humiliation and hatred forced him to construct the one way he could ever find peace. He would trap the woman who betrayed him in a carefully crafted illusion, and let her watch it all collapse, right when she thought she had it all. Only then, in complete despair, would she leave this world. So, during his time abroad, he laid the groundwork, submitted the paperwork, made the contacts. 9 months later, I was born to a Chinese family overseas. 3 years after that, he brought me back to the Wong household, and the 20-year plan for revenge began. By now, he had already cleaned up most of the company's problems. A week ago, he told me everything. He said, George, have you made up your mind? Originally, if Alicia had behaved, and if you still wanted her, I would have let her marry into the family. You'd run the Wong group, and she'd support you as your wife. But now, she's got no brains, and no shame. Worse than her mother. He flicked the ash off his cigarette, his disdain for Alicia practically dripping from his eyes. But if you do still like her, he said, I have ways. She'll spend the rest of her life dependent on you, begging for every breath. I looked at him, my expression finally serious. Dad, I said, I've made up my mind. These past 6 months, Alicia drained every last bit of my feelings. Besides, she's Jenny's daughter. I will never marry her. About that MBI program you mentioned, I've already signed up. Please watch over the Wong Group for 2 more years. Once I return, I'll take over everything. My dad smiled and nodded. Good. You've learned how to hold on, and how to let go. You didn't let me down. Chapter 13. At this point, the spectators' brains were already fried like overheated CPUs. Someone blurted out, "Holy sh*t, my intestines are twisted in knots. Can someone please explain what the hell just happened?" Another said, "Damn, that revenge punch took 20 years to land. Chairman Wong found out he got cheated on. Left the country, had a son with another woman. Raised George to be the heir. Then waited for the perfect moment to boot Alicia, and hand the company to his real son. That man is ice cold." Someone else asked, "But wait, why did the Wong Group end up going to Alicia? Did George betray Pablo in the end?" Almost like the story was answering them directly. The big screen jumped ahead, to the day I learned about my father's car accident and rushed home. On the way to the hospital, I kept wondering, was this another one of my father's schemes? But it didn't seem likely. If he had planned this, why wait so long to act? And sure enough, once I reached the VIP hospital ward, my suspicion was confirmed. The accident was real. When the truck hit, Jenny had thrown herself in front of my father. She died. My father, Pablo, was gravely injured. Chapter 14. After my father regained consciousness, he was still seriously injured, so he intended to have me take over the Wong Corporation early. I thought it over and declined. I'd only been studying for my master's in business information for 6 months. Taking control of the company at this stage would never win over the board. Besides, with my father gravely injured, all I wanted was to stay by his bedside every day and accompany him. So in the end, my father and I decided to liquidate all the commercial assets tied to the Wong Corporation. To avoid raising suspicion, we took 3 years to quietly hollow out the company, turning it into a shell and handing it over to Alicia. That day, Alicia was so happy she looked like a little kid. She didn't even notice the way I looked at her, as if I were looking at someone brainless. Even though I disappeared entirely from Alicia's memory afterward, I would still occasionally hear jokes about the Wong Corporation, because Alicia had a ticking time bomb next to her. Martin, that gold-digging climber, was the master of leeching off women. Not only did he bring his own parents into the company, but also every possible distant relative, uncles, cousins, great-aunts, you name it. In the end, one cousin looted everything valuable from the company, and Martin wouldn't even let Alicia report it to the police. And that was just one example among many. It didn't take long before Martin drove the Wong Corporation to the brink of bankruptcy, drowning in debt. The reason Alicia reported me, most likely, was to try and get her hands on that $50 million to pay off the mess. Chapter 15. It wasn't until the central screen turned off that Alicia finally snapped back to reality. She jumped up, eyes full of shock and rage as she shouted, "George, so everything was planned by you and Pablo. You two lied to me and my mom for so long. Disgusting and shameless. All men are trash. You'll both die miserable deaths." I let out a short laugh and said, "If we're talking about lies, it was your mom who lied first. You call that shameless? I call it a fair fight, just a magic duel, nothing more." As the crowd erupted in scolding voices, Alicia was escorted away by law enforcement, handcuffed. Meanwhile, my second ex-girlfriend sat calmly in the audience, sunglasses and a mask hiding her identity, as if none of this had anything to do with her. The reason she covered up so carefully was that she was none other than Willow, the breakout internet celebrity and trending actress of recent weeks. Only when officers invited her onto the stage did she finally take off her mask and sunglasses. With striking features, porcelain skin, and a curvaceous figure, she instantly stole the spotlight. In the audience, someone gasped, "Damn, Willow is gorgeous. Is it even fair to be that good-looking?" Someone even giggled and said, "Is it just me, or did the whole sky brighten when she took off her mask?" At that moment, an impatient male voice cut through the chatter. "Can we focus here? This woman's about to put her ex-boyfriend behind bars." The crowd fell silent. Then Willow's manager calmly countered, "MS. Lou is just doing what any law-abiding citizen should. Simping is a criminal offense. What's wrong with reporting a crime?" Only silence responded to him. Chapter 16. On stage, Willow's eyes lit up with stars when she saw her manager defending her. She nodded at him enthusiastically. Her manager stood tall and cold like a block of ice, but when he looked at Willow, a faint smile flickered across his face. Sensing I was staring at him, he instinctively looked my way. I greeted him with a smile. "Long time no see, my dear brother." Makoto's eyes instantly turned colder. With a sneer, he turned his head and said, I don't have a brother who buys houses and cars for his girlfriend but wouldn't give me a dime when I was down and then had the nerve to steal her from me. My biggest regret in life was ever calling you a brother. I stayed silent. The audience below started to stir. Someone said, "Ever heard the saying, don't mess with your friend's girl? I hate guys like that the most, total scumbags." Another added, "I was starting to like George, but now I just want to laugh." Chapter 17. As the officers prepared to place the memory helmet on Willow, Makoto spoke coldly. "Honorable Judgment Stone, because Willow is a public figure, I'd like to formally request that her memories not be displayed publicly." Judgment Stone responded, "All memories are treated equally before this tribunal. If you do not agree, you may waive the trial and go directly to prison." Makoto tried to speak again, but Willow gave a subtle shake of her head, signaling him to back off. Immediately, the giant screen in the central plaza lit up, showing the three of us sitting in a cafe. Makoto and I sat on one side of the table, with Willow seated opposite us. The atmosphere was incredibly awkward. This was the first time Makoto had brought me to meet his lifelong rival, who also happened to be his childhood friend, Willow. Back then, Willow wasn't a famous actress. She was just a waitress working in a local restaurant. Makoto laughed and said, "Bro, it's been over half a year since you broke up with Alicia. I get it, the last relationship hit you hard, but it's time to move on." He continued, "There are plenty of fish in the sea. No need to obsess over just one. Want me to set you up with someone? But take this as a lesson, don't be a simp again like last time. Don't give your all without boundaries, or you'll end up broke and heartbroken again." That scene hit me hard. After my father's recent death and the chaos of managing his estate, I hadn't had time to tell Makoto the truth about Alicia. To him, it looked like I'd lost my job and gotten dumped, penniless and pathetic. Yet, even in my downfall, this brother still stood by me. How could I not be moved? Still, with Willow present, I decided to delay telling him the truth. Chapter 18. Willow, sitting across from us, was quietly staring at Makoto in a daze. After a moment, she pressed her lips together, as if summoning all her courage. "Makoto," she said softly, "I have something I want to tell you." Makoto blinked in surprise, then quickly cut her off. "Willow, I have something to say too. Let me go first. I've started seeing someone new." "You know her too?" A flicker of confusion crossed Willow's face, but she forced a smile and rolled her eyes. "Oh, God, which poor soul decided to date you?" Makoto exhaled in relief. "Could you not always be so harsh? Can't you act a little more like a girl? It's your bestie, Maria. She's way gentler than you." Willow's tone turned mocking. "Maria, isn't she trying to break into acting now? The entertainment industry is a mess. Aren't you afraid she'll run off with someone else once she gets famous?" Makoto frowned. "Can you for once hope something good happens for me? I'm her manager now. I keep an eye on her. Where could she run to? And even if she did run, wouldn't that just mean I bagged someone else's girl first?" At that, I frowned slightly, and the hope in Willow's eyes visibly dimmed. Makoto took a sip of coffee and casually asked, "So, what were you going to say earlier?" Willow rested her cheek on one hand, shaking her head with a teasing smile. "I was going to say, your handsome friend here, is he single? Can I have him as my boyfriend?" Chapter 19. Makoto burst out laughing. "No way. George isn't like me. He's an idiot. Got scammed out of everything in his last relationship. He's got no money right now, so forget about looting any gold from him." His words began to grate on me. I stirred my coffee and turned to Willow. "I heard from Makoto that your lunar birthday is August 28th. Willow finally tore her gaze away from Makoto and looked at me, tilting her head. "Yeah, it is." "Why?" I smiled. "No reason. That's my birthday too. Seems like fate." I looked into her eyes and paused. Then I continued. "So, how about we try it? Like you said, let's date and see how it goes." She nodded. "Sure, let's give it a shot." As Willow and I chatted, Makoto's face grew more and more tense. His brows knitted. His voice turned colder. "Willow, are you seriously thinking about getting with George?" When Willow confirmed it, he turned to me. "George, Willow's not the one for you. If you ignore my warning, you'll regret it later." When I didn't respond, he stood up and left. The memory footage shifted. The onlookers in the square began whispering, "Come on. Even a blind man can see Willow's into Makoto. George's simping is just embarrassing now." Another added, "Makoto may be blunt, but at least he cares. He's been trying to talk sense into George the whole time." And someone else chimed in. "Having a brother like that and still stealing his girl. This is literally a real-life, Farmer and the Snake situation." But then, a quieter voice said, "Something doesn't feel right. I can't quite put my finger on it. Let's keep watching." Chapter 20. The footage began to fast forward. I started spending money on Willow like crazy. Willow wanted to enter the entertainment industry, so I used my own funds to open a talent agency just for her, paving the way to her stardom. Ever since Makoto found out about my financial situation from Willow, He had been constantly messaging me, warning me not to spend money on her, telling me that simps always end up with nothing. But the version of me in the footage turned a deaf ear and spent money like water. To be fair, she did have some skills. With her stunning looks, she quickly gained some fame in the entertainment world, soon even surpassing Makoto's girlfriend, Maria. During this time, Makoto kept trying to meet with me, but I was too busy handling Willow's affairs and didn't have the time. Eventually, he cornered me outside my house, and I had no choice but to let him in. Chapter 21. Makoto looked around the standalone villa I lived in, his expression dark. He frowned and said, "Looks like the Wong family didn't leave you empty-handed after all. I thought you were flat broke when you left. I even considered helping you out." Turns out I was just being sentimental. I smiled but said nothing. Realizing his tone was a bit too bitter, Makoto forced a smile and said, "I was just worried about you, bro. You've been spending everything on Willow. I heard you're even planning to buy her a house." I nodded. "That's the plan," Makoto snapped. "Are you out of your damn mind? I've been your brother for years, and you never gave me anything valuable. Now you're buying a house for a girl you've known for less than 6 months. You give something to me, I'd call you my godfather. You give it to her, and she'll just think it's what she deserves." I looked at him sincerely and asked, "So what do you want?" Makoto wasn't expecting that. He studied my face, then hesitated before saying, "I want you to help my girlfriend." I was speechless. He continued, "Maria's been upset lately. She's had her eye on a role, but the studio wants her to bring her own funding. Her company's been pushing new talent, and she's practically being sidelined. This might be her last shot." I asked, "How much?" He said, "Not much, just 10 million. I couldn't help but laugh. "Is 10 million the name of your dog or something?" "Just 10 million. If it's so little, why don't you pay it yourself?" Makoto's lips trembled in anger, eyes bloodshot. He gritted his teeth. "You'd rather be a simp and buy a house for your girlfriend than help your own brother. This isn't even a handout, it's an investment. There's ROI. You get that?" I frowned. "Dude, Willow's my girlfriend. What does your girlfriend have to do with me?" He gritted his teeth and shouted, "You're such a simp, you deserve to lose everything to a woman." Then he stormed out and slammed the door. Chapter 22. A few months later, I really did buy Willow a house, but her attitude toward me remained cold. At the contract signing, even with a mask on, you could tell she was annoyed, constantly texting on her phone. The sales lady thought we were arguing because I wasn't planning to put Willow's name on the title, but when I paid in full and had the deed written in Willow's name only, her expression became indescribable. I acted like I didn't notice. I simply took the purchase contract and tucked it away. That evening, I took Willow to a luxury brand's gala dinner. At check-in, we bumped into Makoto and Maria, being turned away by security. Makoto was red-faced, yelling at the staff, while people passing by kept glancing at him and Maria. Rumor had it that Maria's agency had told her to attend this event, but when they got to the Garden Hotel, they found her name wasn't even on the guest list. Willow's eyes flickered, and in a rare display of softness, she pleaded, "George, can you find a way to get Makoto and Maria inside?" I nodded and made a call to the event organizer. Not long after, the organizer himself came out to greet us. I introduced Willow to him, and the men politely said it was a pleasure to meet her. Before the small talk even finished, Willow pointed at Makoto and said, "They're my friends. Could you let them in too?" The organizer glanced at me discreetly, and I gave a small nod. Catching the signal, he smiled and said, "If they're friends of Miss Liu, of course they're welcome." Chapter 23. At that moment, Makoto's brows were furrowed with 1,000 tangled thoughts. He probably never imagined that the ugly duckling he once looked down on had now stepped into high society. The very venue he and Maria had to beg to enter, Willow walked in without even needing an invitation. Makoto's gaze couldn't help but fixate on Willow, now sparkling under the lights. For the first time, he realized how regal and graceful Willow looked when dressed to the nines, able to carry herself effortlessly among top-tier elites. All the cameras in the venue were snapping pictures of Willow. She had become the center of attention, and I, with my arm around her shoulders, smiled with unrestrained pride. Makoto, on the other hand, was getting completely snubbed. People wouldn't even accept the business cards he handed out. In contrast to Willow's elegance, Maria seemed plain and unremarkable. He had once thought Maria's looks and presence were standout, certain she'd make it big and help him build a successful agency. But now, all he could feel was regret and burning envy toward me. After the banquet, Willow went to the restroom while I waited for her in the lobby. Makoto stormed up to me and snapped, "You really think Willow likes you? She's had feelings for me for 10 years. If she hadn't gotten upset at me that day, she never would have dated you out of spite." Seeing I didn't react, Makoto provocatively pulled out his phone and sent a voice message right in front of me, saying he'd take Willow home. Willow quickly found some lame excuse and told me to go home first, and I, like a fool, went home alone. Viewers watching the scene unfold were furious. Someone said, "Seriously, did Willow save George's life in a past life or something? He's done so much for her, and she's ice cold." One word from Makoto and she runs off with him. How is George okay with this? Another said, "No doubt about it now, George is 100% a simp. House, car, all for a girl, and she treats him like dirt. No way to justify it anymore." Someone else murmured, "Still, something feels off. Let's keep watching." Chapter 24. The footage kept playing. Makoto tried several more stunts, assuming I'd break up with Willow eventually, but I just stood by and watched them like I was under some kind of spell. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He called me, right in front of Willow, and said, "Willow, just break up with George now, and I'll be with you immediately." You could hear the joy Willow struggled to suppress in her voice. She said softly, "George, I'm sorry. The one I really love is Makoto." Makoto arrogantly added, "See, I told you. George, you're a brain-dead simp. You deserve to be used by a woman." Then he hung up. The last scene from Willow's memory showed Maria breaking up with Makoto. I signed Maria under my own company, and then shelved her career. Makoto was so enraged he called me. "Willow likes me, and you retaliate by stealing Maria from me. Fine, just wait for the lawsuit." Later, Willow sued me, claiming the contract terms were unfair, but the court dismissed the case, and with that, Willow's memory playback ended. Chapter 25. Someone in the audience said, "No wonder Willow didn't flinch when Alicia was arrested." George's behavior during their relationship, classic simp, didn't listen to his bro, spent money on a woman, even bought her a house, and never tried to take it back. Another said, "Whether George was a simp or not, one thing's for sure, Makoto and Willow are total trash." And Makoto has the nerve to say George stole his girl. What? Only he can steal others' girlfriends. But if George signs someone, it's stealing. Someone else muttered, "Seriously toxic duo, reporting George just to break a contract. That's low." By now, Makoto and Willow's faces had turned ugly. Sure, they'd known public memory playback would come with backlash, but this was the only way to force a contract termination. Then, the officers once again guided my hand to the judgment stone, and the final judgment began. A few minutes later, as the judgment stone's voice rang out, everyone held their breath. The judgment stone declared, "George, not guilty." Chapter 26. As more and more voices of doubt arose, a new set of memories began to play on the giant screen, mine. It was a scene from before I first met Willow. In front of me sat a Taoist priest, with an ethereal and sage-like presence. I asked, "Master, are you saying that someone born on the 28th day of the 8th lunar month in the year of the horse, at the hour of the dragon, will bring me the greatest financial fortune?" The priest nodded slightly. "But once she loses her virginity, her fate pattern will shift." That very first scene shocked the entire audience. Someone gasped, "No way. So George spoiled Willow all this time just because he treated her like a good luck charm?" Another chimed in, "If that's all it was, why would he buy her a house and a car? That's overkill for just a charm." Someone else agreed, "Exactly. And George used to be pretty close with Makoto. It was only after Makoto warned him a few times that a rift started between them." The screen jumped again, to the day I first met Willow at a cafe. Makoto had stormed out because I didn't take his advice. I hesitated a moment, then went outside to try and tell him the truth. But just as I exited the cafe, I saw Makoto pull out his phone and start ranting to someone. He said, "You seriously can't reason with idiots. Just got scammed by a woman and still hasn't learned his lesson. First time meeting Willow and he's already eager to get milked for gold. Willow's had a thing for me for 10 years now, but has she looked in the mirror? No makeup. Plain as paper. Who would be into that? And man, you should have seen my buddy. The way he looked at Willow, like his legs stopped working. Has that guy never seen a woman before?" Whoever was on the other end said something that made Makoto laugh. He said, "Yeah, the ones I hate the most are those pathetic mutts who act like love is life and death." On screen, I gave a cold sneer and turned to leave. Back in the plaza, Willow stared at Makoto like she was seeing him for the first time. Biting her lip, she said, "Makoto, so this is how you really see me, and you had the nerve to tell me you were with me because you'd realized your true feelings. You disgust me." Makoto kept a straight face. "We'll talk about that later. Let's finish watching George's memories first." At that moment, the screen showed me explaining the supplemental agreement in Willow's contract. I said, "If you generate 50 million for the company during the contract period, the house and car will become yours outright. But if you fail to reach that target, you'll need to return both. This clause applies to all contracted artists. You can take your time deciding whether to sign." Willow, on screen, was busy texting someone. Both hands were flying across her phone as she signed the document without even lifting her head. Someone in the crowd commented, "Well, at least George was a decent boss, even if he treated her like a lucky charm." He didn't screw her over. Honestly, in the state Willow was in earlier, she probably would have signed a literal slavery contract, another said. This kinda shows Willow actually trusted George deep down, and another added. Knew it. George isn't some brainless simp. The guy's all about business. He tolerated Willow and Makoto this long for the sake of the company. With the way things played out, I bet CEO Wong made a fortune during Willow's contract. As Willow was led away in handcuffs, face ashen and hopeless, Makoto had already vanished from the scene. Chapter 27. Soon, my final ex-girlfriend was brought up to the judgment platform. It was also the first time I'd ever seen her in real life. I didn't even know her name. We had met in a game called Immortal Cultivation Simulator. In this game, players temporarily lose their real-world memories and simulate a life in a fantasy cultivation world. Immortal Cultivation Simulator became wildly popular upon release, because the lives players lived in-game felt incredibly real. But the hyperrealism had a downside. If you committed simping behavior in-game and got reported, it could still lead to a sentence in real life. That said, it was still a game, so the Judgment Stone would apply more lenient standards, based on context. After the final ex-girlfriend, Sophia, put on the memory helmet, the screen lit up with imagery from the fantasy world. Mist drifted through the trees, thick and thin, blurring everything in soft layers. Petal-covered trees appeared like they were veiled in gauze, ethereal, as if from a celestial realm. Sophia stumbled through the forest, her steps faltering. Bright red blood flowed from her body, painting the earth beneath her. Eventually, she collapsed, unconscious. Chapter 28. Dad, come quick. There's a female human cultivator badly wounded here. Can we help her? On screen, two wild wolves appeared. That was me and my father. My father said, we'll give her some herbal medicine. Beyond that, her fate is in the hands of the heavens. It's best not to get involved with humans. Both of my ears perked up. Confused, I replied. But Dad, this woman is only at the early stages of foundation establishment. According to the human cultivation system, you're already in the mid to high tier of that level. We should be fine, right? My father looked me in the eyes and said, you'll understand once you grow up and take human form. Humans are the most terrifying beings in this world. Maybe Sophia heard our voices. Her survival instinct kicked in, and she regained consciousness for a moment. She trembled as she spoke. Please, help me. In the end, my kind-hearted father brought her back to our home. Sophia's injuries were severe. She remained unconscious for the first 2 years. Had it not been for my father feeding her rare spiritual herbs daily, she would have died long ago. After another 3 years of recovery, Sophia finally regained her full strength. My father's fears never came true. Sophia seemed genuinely grateful for saving her life and prepared to leave us a pile of rare treasures before parting. But that night, I transformed into my human form. Chapter 29. After I transformed into my human form, Sophia never mentioned leaving again. She stopped calling me by name. Instead, she called me senior brother over and over. The look in her eyes grew increasingly deranged, radiating a dangerous aura as deep as an abyss. My parents sensed something was wrong and tried to drive her away using their mid-stage golden core strength. But no one expected that Sophia wasn't just a low-stage foundation establishment cultivator. She had used a treasure to conceal her true cultivation. She was actually at the high-stage nascent soul level. With a cold snort, she said, your whole family once saved my life, so I held back and didn't take senior brother away. But now that you've attacked me, I'll spare your lives and call it even. However, senior brother is leaving with me today. If you try to stop me again, don't blame me for what happens next. Of course, my parents couldn't just stand by and let her take me away. They fought her with everything they had. But while nascent soul and golden core may only differ by one stage in name, the gap in power is enormous. In just a single breath, Sophia seriously wounded them. And just like that, she took our whole family back to Heaven's Gate Sect. Chapter 30. As soon as we arrived at Heaven's Gate Sect, Sophia led me straight to the main hall. She whispered, senior brother, everyone at Heaven's Gate Sect has been waiting for your return. I wanted nothing more than to kill her on the spot, but I knew I wasn't strong enough. I didn't even know where my parents were being held. For now, I had to stay calm and play along. The moment I stepped into the hall, 3 pairs of eyes locked onto me. Sophia declared, Master, I've brought back senior brother. A figure with the aura of a divine immortal rushed toward me, his expression bordering on madness. He cried, it's Eric, it's really Eric. I was speechless. The 2 people standing behind him exchanged glances, their eyes rippling with hidden emotions. Sophia told me these 3 were my master, my junior sister, and my second junior sister. I was supposedly the senior disciple of Heaven's Gate Sect, but had gone missing years ago during a training mission. All this time, the sect had been searching for me. Looking at the joy on their faces made my skin crawl. With their level of cultivation, there's no way they couldn't see the truth, that I was just a wolf demon in human form. If that's not insanity, what is? Chapter 31. They began forcing me to imitate every aspect of that so-called senior brother. Since I had just taken human form, I couldn't fully control my transformation. My tail wouldn't retract, so I walked around with it tucked down. But how could the mighty senior brother possibly walk around with a tail? So the second junior sister severed my Achilles tendons, and the third junior sister cut off my tail, because I couldn't grasp the swordsmanship our master tried to teach me, and clearly lacked the innate talent of the real senior brother. He whipped me all night long. Ironically, Sophia was the most normal one in the entire Heaven's Gate sect. She would bring me medicine when I was injured, and food when I passed out from hunger. I had thoughts of ending it all, once and for all, but the next day, half a wolf's tail appeared in my room. I didn't dare to die anymore. At first, I asked about my parents every day, then once every 5 days, then once a month. By now, I could play the role of the senior brother so well that I rarely got beaten anymore. But this kind of life was one where you couldn't see any end, just endless despair. Chapter 32. One day, our master took the second and third junior sisters out of the sect for a mission. Only Sophia remained behind to watch me. We sat beneath a tree, sipping tea. When it was just the two of us, she never forced me to act like the senior brother. Those moments were the only freedom I had. Suddenly, a white flash darted past. Before we could react, a terrifying, world-shattering blast of spiritual energy surged towards Sophia. A flicker of hesitation passed through my eyes, but just for a moment. I rushed in front of Sophia and used my body to block the fatal strike. George! A desperate cry rang out. I looked toward the voice. It was my father. Despair filled his eyes. He said, "George, your mother gave up her demon core to help me break through, just so we could come save you. Why would you protect her?" I said, "Dad, I'm sorry." I tried to wipe the tears from his eyes, but I couldn't lift my hand anymore. A flash of golden light swept across the screen. Sophia's memory ended there. Chapter 33. Someone asked, was George brainwashed? Why the hell would he take a fatal blow for Sophia in the end? Another muttered, "If you want to make me cry, don't try the family angle. If there's no twist coming, just convict him already. I've had enough of this simp crap." After watching Sophia's memory, it felt like I had been dragged back into that same pit of despair. Hundreds of raging flames burned in my chest. I placed my hand on the judgment stone. A few minutes later, the judgment stone's solemn voice rang out again. "George, not guilty." Sophia's eyes burned with hatred. She snapped, "Impossible. That simp risked his life for me." I looked at her, eyes full of pure loathing. I said, "Then open those damn dog eyes of yours and take a good look at what really happened after that." The central screen lit up with my memory. Chapter 34. This time, the memory picked up right from the moment my father attacked Sophia. That second of hesitation. It was because a hidden system prompt had appeared before my eyes. "You are the reincarnation of the heavenly emperor of the North Star. Upon death in this life, your divine power will fully awaken." That's why I stepped in front of Sophia without a second thought. To die. The golden light. That was the celestial anomaly triggered by my transformation into the heavenly emperor of the North Star. And with a mere flick of my finger, Sophia's soul was instantly obliterated. She vaporized into nothing. That's where Sophia's memory had ended. But my revenge was only just beginning. Chapter 35. That night, my master, second junior sister, and third junior sister returned. Seeing that I wasn't cultivating, my master didn't even speak. He just whipped me without hesitation. But this time, I whipped him into pieces. Second junior sister got off a bit easier. She had once cut off my tail, so I gave her 4 clean slashes, top, bottom, left, and right. Third junior sister had severed my Achilles tendons, so I shattered every one of her spiritual veins and stabbed her heart until it looked like a wasp's nest. The entire scene was beyond bloody. The judgment stone even thoughtfully labeled the footage with an 18+ warning. The crowd watching erupted with satisfaction. Someone shouted, "That was cathartic as hell. Serves them right. All 3 of those lunatics deserved it." Another added, "Knew it. George never let us down." By now, it was dusk. The day was nearly over. The solemn voice once again echoed across the city skies. "Judgment Stone. This tribunal hereby announces that in the case of Alicia, Willow, and Sophia jointly accusing George of simping, the plaintiffs have lost, according to Article 404 of the Anti-Simp Law. Alicia, Willow, and Sophia are each sentenced to 20 years in prison. No appeal allowed. The accused, George, is awarded $150 million in compensation. Immediately, law enforcement handed me a check for the full amount. I waved the check in the air and shouted, "With this prize money, I will establish an anti-simp foundation, one that regularly funds trips for single men to experience the vastness of the world, to see the warmth and coldness of human nature, and to shed the illusion of female idealization." Brothers, stop deluding yourselves. Stop begging for affection. Never be a simp. Spend your time and money where it truly matters. Become a man of integrity, one who lives for himself and dares to enjoy life.